Take a look at this from the Dispatch. No, Politico did not receive substantial funds from USAID. Various government agencies have purchased subscriptions to its publication since 2016. The funny thing about these fact checks on this story is that it is fair to say that Kyle Becker and Benny Johnson got this one largely wrong by claiming that USAID was providing $8 million. But I love how they then say the claims are false. According to USAspending.gov, an official source for U.S. government expenditure data and the resource used by Becker in his post, Politico received $8.2 million total payments from government departments and agencies between fiscal year 2016 and 2025. Okay. Well, so they are receiving government funds. But it is a fair question that Nuance Bro brings up. And what is their total revenue? And will this actually affect their bottom line? That being said, however, quid pro quo. If the government is spending $1 million a year, a little bit more, on premium subscriptions, is that going to someone's pocket? What's the point of it? I don't see that as making sense. Or look, I'm sorry, like on the ground, independent media, you go to anybody in the space and say, do you think if you offered up $13,000 subscriptions, that would make sense for anybody? And if they're going to claim that we offer up proprietary technology or whatever, the question then becomes, why is a news organization fronting for an intelligence technology operation?
I want to know how much money the U.S. government gives Axel Springer, the owner. So basically, they're a German company that owns Politico. Politico is now a German company, just so you know. It's headquartered in Berlin, is where Axel Springer is. And I wonder if they're like in bed with the military-industrial, the liberal economic order. You know, it's in Germany, which is basically one of the European capital of the liberal economic order next to Britain. But I'm wondering if they've broken that. Axel Springer, if you search for Axel Springer, and you can see how much donations or purchases have been made by government agencies to Axel Springer SE, which is the name of the corporation.
It's interesting that they use this substantial funds language here because, yeah, it's $44,000 and then $8.1 million in that period of time from just government agencies in general. But just for BBC, as you were covering earlier, just straight from USAID, I guess not even from government agencies altogether, but they're 8% of all their revenue was just from USAID. So it's interesting. The substantial funds were going to the BBC, but not.
It's the term substantial funds is relative.
I mean, if you're talking about, I don't know what they're. I don't know.
8%'s definitely.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know what the margins are on that type of operation, but 8% could be all of their profit.
8 million annually feels like a healthy chunk of change. I don't know. Maybe they started advertising.
No, it's not 8 million annually.
It's not 8 million.
It's over 9 years.
It's like 1 million annually.
Yeah. But again, I mean, I don't know. That $1 million doesn't seem like a lot of money for Politico when it comes to.
If they're making $200 million in revenue in 2023, then we
don't know.
That's the estimate. The estimate ranges are around there. And I'm just going to say right off the bat, as I must be really bad at this. If their viewership is lower than ours and they're doing $200 million and we're nowhere
they're the
near
propaganda arm of Axel Springer. So they're like just like Washington Post was bought by Jeff Bezos as a propaganda arm. That thing's not pulling in money. It's Bezos subsidizing it.
I don't think that it's so much about the company that owns them as their connections to the administration. That's really because they're putting out the propaganda that the administration wants. You don't hear Politico. I haven't heard a seriously critical article come out of Politico about Democrats or even establishment Republicans really in a long time. And when they do something critical on establishment Republicans, it's very kid gloves. So they're I mean, I don't know anything about Axel Springer, but the actual collusion with the government is obvious, and that's the actual problem, not who owns them.
What's that website, Tim, that you just had up where you can search by company?
USAspending.gov.
I'm going to search for Axel Springer on that. USA spending. Now that the lid's blown off of USAID.
Like, I mean, again, I don't think the problem, or I think who owns the company is less impactful than their actual connection to the DNC or to the administration, the actual government, because it's whoever's running Politico, whoever's actually in charge of that, having the access to people in the Democrat Party and putting out essentially what is official, press releases that are written by the government or that are approved by the government. That's the actual problem. I don't know anything about Axel Springer. Maybe they are a bad company, but it doesn't really matter if they're a German company or an American company or what have you. Because the problem is that Politico is looked at as the serious news organization, and the Democrat establishment essentially feeds them all of the news that they're putting out.
Let's quick fact check. The BBC Media Action, which is I don't know what an NGO, is what's receiving 8% of their income from USAID. It says, as the BBC's international charity, we're completely separate from BBC News, literally in their statement. Wholly reliant on our donors and supporters to carry out our work.
And you got to remember, when it comes to these global corporations, they're great at naming things to obfuscate, and they'll put a name and another thing with the same name with a slightly different thing that means something else, or they'll call it something completely unrelated, and that's who's really in control, is this umbrella corp that's called like Official Strategies LLC. And
remember the Panama Papers?
What, Panama Papers?
Yeah. We found out all those people were hiding money.
Man, that came out and within 6 months was like off the radar. It was like Putin's got his money in Panama, all these like global oligarchs. And I can hear like silence in the room, like how the sound gets sucked out. Do you really want to go down that rabbit hole? Because there's snakes down there.
Let's just pause and take a big step back from whatever this story is and respect the point that we don't know the total revenue of these companies. Maybe they're much bigger and better at this than we think. I know the New York Times makes a lot of money. Good for them. The issue at hand is for the taxpayer. Yeah. Do we accept that you need to spend $3,000 to $13,000 for a subscription? Why is the government? The issue is it's not their money, so they don't care.
Yeah.
If someone said, Elon, you can buy whatever you want, don't worry, the money comes from Tim, Elon's gonna be like, okay, what is he worried about? It's not his money.
But that's because Elon's an asshole like that. If you actually
I'd be worried about getting fired.
But that's the thing.
Assuming I was your fiduciary.
These agencies are like, I'll spend $1 million on subscriptions. What do I care?
Yeah. It's so disingenuous, man. Just like you can't just pay someone $1 million to sit around and be an admin. The value has to be, this is in the private sector. The value of their work has to be market, what do they call it? Market average for like the cost of the value. Like you can't overpay someone as an employee. It's tax fraud. So for a company to offer a $10,000 subscription for something that should be worth like $4,000 or $1,000 or $80 a month.
Well, we don't know what it's worth because no one's telling us what the product is. And I want to know what the product is.
It's the one hand washes the other, right? So these companies like Politico is getting money from the federal government via USAID, and so Politico then writes stories that are complimentary about the government. They're literally paying Politico through USAID to write good stories about them. And it doesn't matter if they're paying them a substantial amount of their cost of operation, or if they're just paying them $1 million a year. And the top 4 or the top 5 people that work there are taking $200,000 each.
That's what I wonder. If they're making $200 million in revenue, $1 million isn't enough to blackmail or persuade them to write articles.
Absolutely is.
It's not that much.
Well, it's not.
They have over 1,000 employees.
Yeah, but
They have 1,100 employees.
Here's the thing that I think we're overlooking, guys. I'm reading into Politico Pro, and here it says Politico Pro users are able to quickly get an AI-generated summary of federal bills, rapid access to critical legislature coming out, and different articles. So if you put AI into anything, any part of your business, you will immediately double or quadruple the value of your company. So that's what you need in your company here at Timcast.
Timcast does AI.
AI is laud.
Everything that we're saying was scripted by AI.
You could build an AI that's you that answers people's questions, and then you'd have 50,000 people buy that.
It's a marketing.
I just don't believe it. I do believe that they make a lot of money off this. They have newsletters, and they sell sponsorships on it. That makes sense. So I don't think their government income is substantial, but I still think the issue at play is the media is freaking out that we're talking about cutting government waste and having government employees spending millions of dollars on these subscriptions at high costs to various media organizations. That shouldn't be happening. That's it.
Yeah, it's not. I think if people get hung up on thinking like this is the bribery scandal, they're going to be wrong. It's going to be a dead end, because if you relatively 1/200th of their annual revenue is this, it's not.
But I'm going to say this, guys. There's never going to be a day where you discover that USAID gave $10 million to insert news organization. What's going to happen is USAID gave the Defending Democracy super organization in Morocco $10 million. The Defending Democracy organization then said, well, we need access to good, clean information. So they donated $5 million to the Fighting Disinformation charity out of the Cayman Islands, who then bought 50 subscriptions at $50,000 each for sponsorship or whatever.
You're going to
from
start
company.
finding it's the National Endowment for Democracy. That's basically the on-the-ground people that carry out USAID's briberies and world building things. It's the National Endowment for Democracy. Mike
Is that
Benz,
a specific organization?
Yeah.
And you know that for a fact?
Mike
It's a
Benz.
statement
This
of
is what
fact?
Mike Benz says a lot. He's like, he
So it's
says
been
USAID.
reported. So you're saying it's been reported,
Reported
that's
that
the case.
the National Endowment for Democracy is probably the next one that's going to be the next USAID lid blown off. Like, oh my God, what are they doing? These are like the boots on the ground, according to Mike Benz.
Well, there was an anti-Elon Musk and anti-DOGE protest today in Washington, D.C. outside of the Department of Labor. I think there's allegedly supposed to be, it's been reported that there's going to be a meeting tomorrow with people inside the Department of Labor and people at DOGE. So they are seeing cuts left and right, and I'm not surprised to see any given day what department that the DOGE team or the Trump team might decide to cut up.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.